we are going to start. Hello, everyone. Thank you for making us a part of your Sunday. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this session on effective communication and networking. My name is Emiola. I am one of the co-founders of Doing Good Work in Africa. We set up this session as a professional development session for our summer cohort of interns on the Summer Internship Program, but we decided to open it up to a bigger audience. And I'm very excited to have a dear friend of mine and a dear friend of DOWA, Enitan Sawyerr, as our special guest today. So now I'm going to pass it over to Mariam, who's going to moderate for us, and she's also going to introduce Enitan. Thank you all. Mariam, over to you.
Thank you so much, Emiola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's event. My name is Mariam Ogbuyi. I work as a consultant and program coordinator for Doing Good Work in Africa, and I am more than happy to be your moderator for today's session. Before I introduce our guest for this evening, I would like to implore us to, okay, we're already muted, so you can drop your questions in the chat box or ask at the end or during the question and answer session, which is going to be at the end of our guest session. And it is my pleasure to introduce our guest, Enitan Sawyerr, a communication strategist who is dedicated to fostering inclusive workplaces where authenticity is valued. As Inclusive and Impact Lead and Group Scientific Director at HCG, Omnicom, she accelerates scientific impact through innovation and strategy. With over 15 years experience in healthcare communications across the UK and Nigeria, Enitan has driven brand growth, patient engagement, and data-driven healthcare initiatives. With no further ado, kindly make welcome Enitan Sawyerr. Thank you so much, Enitan. Over to you. I hope I was justice with the introduction.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Mila. Thank you, Doing Good Work in Africa. And thank you, Mariam, for that. And thank you for this opportunity. And thank you to everybody who has made the time out this evening. I kind of felt when you were going through my brief bio, I was like, wow, is that me? Like, that me? I still I don't know. I still feel like a very silly girl who went to QC. But it's not about me this evening. We're talking about effective communication and networking. So to start things off, I would like people to kind of put in the chat or use an emoji or raise your hand if you've ever been told to just be yourself, but have absolutely no idea what it means. Yeah, exactly. And again, I'd like you to either, raise your hand if you put an emoji or something in the chat. If you've ever been worried about fitting in somewhere new or going to a new space or having to network. That's me as well. So over the next 30 minutes, we'll explore kind of 3 key skills that will hopefully get you over your nerves and support you while you're going through your career. 1, we'll be talking about speaking professionally. 2, networking strategically. And 3, communicating confidently across all channels. So let's start with the foundation, speaking professionally. Now, something that I was told quite early on is that it's important that we speak as if every word we say matters. It sounds like a lot. Every word I say matters. And I'm not suggesting that we stop and analyze everything we say when we're going into a conversation, because that would be impractical, but it's more a mindset. It's one that reminds you that what you say today has an impact on who you are today, who you'll be tomorrow, and also how you'll be talked about. So there's something else I want you to do in the chat. I'm so sorry. It's an interactive session, but it just kind of helps me. If you think about the best compliment you've ever received, please put in the chat how it made you feel. Then let me just check the chats. Oh no. So the best compliment you've ever received, how did it make you feel? So if I think about the best compliment I've ever received, or any compliment, it made me feel really good. It empowered me. It made me smile. It lifted me, often at a moment when I thought, I wasn't doing so great. And this is one of the things I love about communication, is that communication touches absolutely everything. How you speak to someone at a restaurant, a cleaner at work, what you say to them, as we know, lasts much longer after your interaction with them is over. And this also includes the words that you say to yourself. So something I had only today, actually, that I thought was really powerful, and I really want to share it with you, is that when you say something, you're saying it to, when you say something and you think about what you're saying, you are honoring two people. You're honoring your younger self, and you're also honoring your older self. So what does this mean? It means that when I choose to say something, I'm speaking to my younger self, and I'm reminding myself that, do you know what? I've come a long way. We have come a long way. I'm standing up for myself. I'm telling them that I'm proud of where we've come from. If I think back to where I was as a teenager, and I think about how I am now as a 40-something-year-old, I can't say that I'm younger, that'll be a lie. And I think about all the things that I've overcome, the nerves, the challenges, the highs, the lows, the hard work, the sacrifices that I've put in. And I realize that I'm okay. So when I say something and it's positive, I'm kind of honoring that young person to say, until you've done a fantastic job. In looking forward to my future self, the words I say today, as I say, will kind of impact tomorrow, and therefore the consequences that my older self will have to live with, who's really going to pay the cost of whatever it is that we say today. So if you think about it like that, in terms of, your words matter, there is weight and intention behind your words, I think you'll have a clearer picture of the type of person you are and the type of person that you want to be. And the good thing about that is that it is then easily reflected in how you are at work, also kind of how you show up for your friends, your family, and your colleagues. So what's the practical effect of this in the workplace? So if I am mindful of if I remind myself that my words matter, I'm honoring my younger self, my older self, it means that I'm going to speak in a positive way. And if you're just starting work, going through interviews, if you're at work angling for a promotion, you're not quite sure how to speak to your boss or your CEO, what have you, if you realize that when you speak in a positive way, you feel more positive, and interestingly and unsurprisingly, you're going to receive it back. How? Because your colleagues will speak to you in a positive way. The people you meet on an interview are going to respond to you positively. If you meet someone at a network event and you say things that are positive, you're only going to get it back. And it's a beautiful loop that goes round and round and round. Now, one of the things that I find really interesting is that I work with loads of people. Omnicom, my company, has 75,000 people. I don't speak to all 75,000 people, but I do get a lot of people who reach out to me to ask for recommendations or referrals. I have a lot of clients all over the world. And when people say, I've received a proposal, someone's reached out to me for this job, what will I say? And I may say, do you know what, that person can do the job. Technically, they're absolutely fantastic, outstanding. But to be honest, they're a bit of an asshole to work with. And I'm only feeding off the energy that they have given me, the things that they have said, the way that they have responded. And I know we do say actions do speak louder than words, but they're not a replacement for words. You remember, just when I asked that question, the compliments that you received and how it made you feel, you remember that. People remember how you spoke to them, how they speak to you. And what's really important, again, is it's not necessarily what you say, but the tone in which you say it. And really, that makes a real difference. And the thing about tone is that tone becomes your trademark. So I would encourage you to choose words that serve you better and that serve other people better. Another thing that I've kind of realized is that when we talk about kind of communication and words and what we say, we very rarely think about what happens afterwards. When we get into a conversation with anyone, school, student, friends, family, interviews, what have you, we kind of focus on what happens now. What happens, the words that we're speaking now, what happens in this present moment. We very rarely kind of think about, what happens afterwards once we've left the conversation. What is that person going to take away from it? How are they going to feel? And I know when I was kind of preparing for this session and someone asked me, well, I'm going to go into a professional environment, how can I how can I show them that I'm capable and talk about my accomplishments without it feeling like I'm bragging? And I would say, I would say to them that, yes, it is good to show off your accomplishments, but that tells me nothing about the type of person that you are. Absolutely nothing. So if you're ever kind of worried about how you may come across, do pay attention to that. If that's your intuition speaking, and your intuition is never, ever, ever wrong. So I've said, your words matter. Honor the person that you were and the person you're going to be. Speak positively. Said also, listen to your intuition and do what you think feels right. And also kind of think about, what's going to happen after your conversation, the impact of your words. But one thing I think is really important to highlight is I don't want you to spend too long thinking about the other person in the conversation, how they'll react, how they'll respond. Why? Because we can't control it. Even here, I can say all I want to say. I can speak very passionately. You may receive it positively, you may not. I hope you receive it positively, and I hope you do take away some helpful things, but I really can't control it. I can only do what I can do. I can only do what I can do. I can only do what I can say. And I have to make sure that I'm proud of it. Everything that I'm saying in this instant is sincere, is honest, and also is consistent. Now, being consistent, thinking about your tone, thinking about your words, definitely doesn't mean you should be inflexible. Far from it. If I think about someone like Michelle Obama, who I think for me, whenever she speaks, her words are always driven by the desire to uplift, to make positive, to make people feel positive and empowered. I've realized that whether she's speaking to children, to politicians, to her brother on the podcast, the core values of what she says remains the same, but she adapts her language and the pace in which she uses them to connect with different audiences. And really, that's what professional communication is all about. It's about staying authentically you while meeting people where they are. So, spoken about kind of speaking professionally, but what about networking? Another question for the chat, if that's all right. So, fingers at the ready. Now, I want you to finish off with one word. How does networking make you feel? And I'm looking over here, it's because I put the chat over here. So in one word, how does networking make you feel? Uncomfortable quite a lot, nervous, excited, yeah. Pretentious, interesting, nervous, okay. Feels like ass kissing, anxious. Okay. Depends on the setting, curious. So for me, I hate it. I'm not gonna lie. If you're expecting me to be like, I love it, gives me joy. I wake up in the morning and I can't think of anything else but networking. That would be an absolute lie. I feel really awkward. I wonder what people are gonna say. I wonder what I'm going to say. I wonder if people are gonna find me interesting. And that's because I'm often in a position where some people come to me to kind of ask me about my job and my career, and they want to engage me. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand or don't think about, is that everything's a two-way street. So you're going into a networking event wondering about who you can meet, and I'm going into a networking event thinking about people who are going to want to meet me, and that can be equally as anxiety-inducing. But one thing I have kind of realized, and one thing that changed everything for me, is that I realized that network isn't just about talking. To be honest, it really is about listening. And once I kind of understood that concept, I realized that networking, or real networking, really is about building authentic relationships with people who share your interests or goals. And we're all doing it, to be honest, in one way or another. Whenever you ask a friend about their job, if you have a family member who has a fantastic kind of career, or they're heading up a company and you're inquiring about it, and you talk to them about, I don't know, kind of financial regulations, legal implications, you know, or even if you kind of leave a thoughtful comment on LinkedIn, you're networking. Gone are the days when it was about kind of exchanging business cards, not that we have those anymore, or racking up a huge number of followers. This isn't TikTok, it's not Instagram. It really isn't about that anymore. In fact, for me, I think kind of networking is quite different, because LinkedIn, even though it is going through a bit of a change at the moment, remains a fantastic superpower. You're able to share what you're learning, not what you've accomplished. Because if you think about it, real people connect with real people, and we all shy away and kind of slightly sneer at someone who's trying so hard to impress us. So if that's how you react to somebody who's trying so hard to impress you, why are you doing it to someone else? Because networking has kind of moved online now, following up online almost feels natural. We do it when we like someone's post on Instagram, when we share a comment on X. What you say, the tone in which you say it, the comments, the thing that you've thought about it, that really does count. Because we are in this digital world as well, it's great because we can have virtual coffee chats, and they're just as valuable as in-person meetings. And finally, you can research people beforehand, so definitely use that as an advantage. So remember, networking has changed from kind of collecting contacts like social media followers or Pokemon cards. I don't know if that's still a thing. I'm showing my age. But it really is about planting relationship seeds that might grow over time. So how do you network effectively? For me, it starts with two simple principles: curiosity and respect. When you approach people with true curiosity about their experiences, instead of thinking, what is it that this person can do for me? My approach is, what can I learn from this person? And that approach, I think, kind of will hopefully change everything about the way you interact. As I've already mentioned, I'm not a big fan of networking. However, I realized that when people ask me questions that are genuinely interested in kind of, something that I've posted in LinkedIn, what my company is doing, or just me as a person, I'm a lot more open. Not only am I a lot more open, I'm willing to kind of provide more information, and that I remember them. And so I'm encouraging you that when you are going for the networking events, or you're trying to make kind of build relationships, try to do away with surface level questions. We will talk about small talk a bit later on. Try to move away from kind of like, what do you do? But maybe things like, what drew you to this field? Or what's the most surprising thing you've learned in your role? Some other conversation starters I found have helped are things like, I'm really interested in X. What advice would you give to somebody starting out? What do you think the industry would be like in 5 years? Or one that I really like and always gets me thinking is, what's the one thing you wish you had known when you were my age or when you were just starting? How much have things changed since you started working? Or what's the most exciting thing you're working on right now? Yes, all of these example questions do very much focus on work, but what you will also notice, hopefully, is that they all start with how or what. They invite people to kind of share their experiences and wisdom, and people like talking about themselves. I'm hoping that is unsurprising, but people really do enjoy. It's easier to talk about yourself. It puts people at ease. It also shows a sign of respect for the other person's knowledge, because you're asking questions, because that you've asked a question, they're following up. And if you're nodding and you're paying attention, hopefully that will trigger another question that you will kind of follow up with, and then you start a good conversation there. So listen to what people say, genuinely listen to what they say, and don't kind of think about the next question. And we can always tell when somebody isn't paying attention and their mind is just ticking, and that's a bit disheartening. So if you want to build an authentic relationship or an authentic network, be respectful and listen and ask follow-up questions related to the discussion. Don't go off on a tangent to something else. Try to stay as focused as possible. Now, nervousness. I'm nervous. I was really nervous starting this. I'm still a bit nervous now. And it's totally natural. And that cliche about kind of being nervous shows that you care is true. And I would say, if you're feeling nervous, don't fight it. Instead, think, okay, fine, even though I'm nervous, I'm still going to do my best. And what happens is when you have that mindset, it's like, I'm nervous, I'm still going to do my best. I find that it kind of gives me that kind of bit of confidence boost. I'm afraid, but I'm still going to do it. One of the best pieces of advice I got from my CEO was, do it afraid. So I'm going to ask another question, and I think this is the last question, so everybody can relax afterwards, is when you get nervous, what does your body do? How does your body signal to you that you're nervous? I shut down, tachycardia, you stutter, okay? So a racing heart, I get a racing heart. I get very dry mouth. I get very, very dry mouth. I'm going to talk about when I get stressed at work. It happened last week, actually. When I get stressed at work, I get very nauseous and I tend to overthink, and I'm like my mind goes round and round and round and round and round. So it's really important that I because I know what I'm like when I get stressed and I know I can't achieve anything, I have developed some strategies to help me cope with it. So I step away from what it is that I'm doing. I try to get something to eat or drink. And then when I come back, I write down a list of what it is that's making me stressed. And then I ask kind of, what is it that's really causing this feeling? Either that I'm not prepared enough, okay? What can I do to make sure that I'm better prepared? If it is that I need more time, what is it that I can do to make sure I have more time? Maybe I kind of go back to ask if it's for a meeting, ask that meeting is postponed or pushed back, for example. If it is that I still don't feel confident about, something at work that maybe I have to work on or present, I also know what I can do with that, which is either I can always ask someone for help, or I can ask someone if they wouldn't mind taking the presentation. So basically what I'm saying is, when you get nervous, recognize the feelings, but don't push it away and think it will go away on its own, because it never does. Even if you, through sheer force of will, it won't. So I would encourage you to say, I'm feeling nervous, but I won't let it stop me from doing X. And how does this work in a networking session is that if you were to go up to somebody that you really want to talk to, but you have nerves, and you say to them, I'm feeling nervous, but I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm feeling nervous, but I won't let it stop me from asking you this. What do you think that does to the person that you're talking to? Two things. It lowers the person's guard, and it also makes them start rooting for you, because everybody loves the underdog. People want everyone else to succeed. So I know I kind of gave some tips for kind of some questions that you can ask. Think other tips for small talk is that remember that it is called small talk for a reason. We all know it has a purpose, and it really is to break the ice. So if you think, oh, I don't want to ask about the weather because it's really awkward, everybody expects the question. It's not called big talk. There are no winners, there are no losers. That's absolutely fine. If you are really struggling, something I find has helped is if I kind of turn it into a poll. So something like the weather, for example, and you're like, how do you find the weather today? And if someone says, oh, it was raining, then you can say, are you I'm speaking, I'm in the UK, so I'm going to use the seasons here. And I'm like, oh, you're totally right. Are you a winter person or are you a summer person? Are you a sandals person or a trainers person? That's a bit personal. But basically, it's kind of, the more you kind of say, are you this or you this? Then number one, it keeps the person engaged. Two, if the person responds, and then you can kind of pick up on that. Oh, you're a summer person. Oh, that's really interesting. So am I. I remember when this fantastic holiday that I went on, and I had the biggest pizza, and it was the best pizza in the world. And then more likely than not, the person will be like, oh, where was this pizza? Where was it? And you have the conversation going there. If you need to practice, there are loads of opportunities to do so, either in a shop, if you're ordering a coffee at a kind of a local coffee shop. And I think you can use this opportunity for small talk. It really does serve a purpose. It is just warm. It's just warm up. So what do? You're at this network event, you've got the conversation going, but you're trapped in a conversation that's really boring. We're being honest here, it does happen. It doesn't even have to be at a networking event, to be honest. You're just stuck in a conversation that is found really boring. So if you remember what I said about, the positive loop and how you make people feel, what I would do is that kind of, rather than stare into space, I would cock my head to one side, nod and even smile. And what that does is that it tells the other person, it puts the other person at ease, makes them feel good. And when you say, I have to step away or I'll come back, or it was really nice meeting you, don't lie. It puts them, because you have put them at ease, you're leaving them on a good note. And also, if you're somewhere in a professional capacity, you never know who's watching you. So if recruiters are watching you and they're kind of looking to see how you interact with others, the fact that they see you actively listening or pretending to actively listen and engage and be pleasant, they'll remember that. So that when they come up to you and they say, how are you enjoying the event? Or I noticed you're having interesting conversations, I think that can only be a good thing. And something that they note and will use to remember you later. If you're in another conversation that seems to it starts off really well, and then it slowly starts to die, be comfortable with silence. If it runs out of steam and the other person isn't forthcoming, don't take it personally. As I mentioned at the beginning, when it comes to networking, I do end up enjoying them sometimes, but more often than not, if a conversation runs out of steam or it goes silent, it probably is because of the other person. And also remember, you're nervous, they're probably nervous. It could be that, they haven't had a lunch, so they're really hungry, they have 101 things on their mind. Basically, don't take it personally. So if you want to end the conversation, just end the conversation, but end it on a positive note. You can say something like, it's been really nice to meet you. I hope we can stay in touch. Something I used to say when I was much younger was something like, I've been given a target by my mother to come back home with at least 5 contacts. Is it okay if I put you down as one? Nobody is going to say no to that, really. And if they do, that isn't the kind of person you want to be involved in anyway. So little tricks like that always puts people at ease and makes them more likely to share their details with you so you can connect with them later. I know I did say that LinkedIn isn't just about, networking, and LinkedIn isn't just about connecting contacts. And it is about that kind of long-term follow-up. Do follow up. It isn't about you being pushy. It's professional. It shows that you respect the connection that you made with the person. It shows that you respect the person's time and that you remember them and that what they said to you and shared with you was valuable. So when speaking of connection, when asking or exchanging contact information, I would recommend that you ask if they prefer email or a call or WhatsApp or a LinkedIn message. Personally, I prefer an email or even a text message. For me personally, in my opinion, WhatsApp is a bit personal. So I'm always a bit affronted when someone just sends me a WhatsApp. I'm like, from where to where? I just met you the other day. Why are you DMing me like this. But somebody, Miriam, might feel completely different. Emila might feel completely different. So don't assume, just ask. It takes absolutely nothing. So you've got the contact details. They've told you their preferred method of communication or staying in touch. Please remember to send a brief message between 24 to 48 hours. It doesn't have anything to be elaborate or anything profound. If you like, I would always recommend that you reference something from your conversation that you had and say something like, I don't know, thank you for telling me about your transition from medicine to public policy, for example. It really got me thinking about my own career path. Stay in touch occasionally, don't bombard them. Share articles you find interesting. Say something like, I thought you might find this of interest. Congratulate them on any achievements that they post up on LinkedIn, or like their messages, or leave something, a thoughtful comment. And what this does is that it keeps you top of mind. So by kind of regularly checking in, what this means is that when you do need to ask them for something, it's not awkward and they know who you are. And if people don't immediately respond, again, it's not personal. Everybody's very busy. It really is a long-term game. The reality of communication. So for many young professionals, you're all digital natives entering workspaces with mixed communication forms. And it is quite different from Instagram and from TikTok, which sounds patronizing to say, but I thought, let me just say it. But I realized that because people have come from this world where things are very quick and very rapid and hashtags and things have to be kind of concise and witty, when it comes to switching to emails to senior colleagues or to picking up the phone to speak to somebody, it is really awkward. And that's not a weakness. It really is just code switching between contexts. So if I think about kind of the key communication channels and some of the tips that I have learned, and these are my perspectives. So email. For me, I would recommend that you keep emails clear and purposeful. Subject line should tell the recipient exactly what you want, what you expect them to do. And this is really important. I'll use myself as an example. I probably send and receive around maybe like 150 emails and messages a day. And I know my clients are probably even busier. So in order to make it kind of easier for them and easier for me, I always ask that people put something in the subject line like, a kind request to review or a follow-up to our meeting. That way people know exactly what it is that you want and they can respond much faster. In the body of an email, a good old sandwich approach always helps. The context, the request, the next steps. If you're following up with somebody that you met at a networking event, say we met at a careers fair yesterday, which provides your context. I'd love to learn more about the internship program or the work that you're currently doing or what we spoke about. That's request. And then would you have 15 minutes for a brief phone call this week or next? And there's your next steps. How do you say this in a way that doesn't come across as being too formal? For me, I write emails as I say them. I'm like, hello, everybody, this is Enitan, and I'm literally typing it. And I review it, but I don't change too much because I realize that is what keeps the email relatable and personable. And it also shows a little bit about my personality as well, which is really what you should always endeavor to do. I also think about the tone and the manner in which I would like to receive an email. So again, I've spoke to earlier on, think about what happens next. And if they don't reply, don't take it personally. Send another email a week later, and then a final one after that. As I said, don't take it personally. It's not that they are often trying to brush you off. It really is because sometimes people are just very busy and there's so many competing priorities that people will often mean to respond. I just remembered an email that I need to respond to. People mean to respond and they just didn't get around to it. What about phone calls? The last time phone calls. People don't really pick up the phone and speak to others anymore. And I think it's a communication form that is really lost. But for that, preparation is your friend. So before making any phone calls, an important phone call like that, write down 3 key points that highlight the things that you want to cover. It can be something simple like, hi, my name is Enitan. I'm calling you about the DOWA meeting that you were organizing. Is now a good time to talk? If they say not, again, don't take it personally. Ask when a good time is. Ask for them for a good time. Or alternatively, if you don't want to speak to somebody, just send them a message or an email to ask for a time. Making phone calls, again, can feel very awkward. I appreciate that. So just start small. You know, if you order something using, I'm going to use Deliveroo or Uber Eats, instead of kind of using the app and tap, 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 pick up the phone and place an order. Phone a family member instead of sending them a WhatsApp. Order coffee in person instead of kind of doing it through an app. Ask a shop assistant for recommendations. Each interaction you do and you get something out of ultimately will build confidence. LinkedIn presence. It's not about job hunting. It really is about career building. So if you're just going onto LinkedIn as a young professional, or even someone who's been on it for a while, do share the things that you've learned. You know, I've just completed this project. This is what surprised me about it. Or if you want to kind of comment on somebody who you're targeting, leave a thoughtful comment, not just say something like great post. And where you can, remind them of when you met and kind of follow up. Think before you post, but really, please do not overthink it. You have a perspective, you have a willingness to engage, you have a willingness to learn, and that really is what people want to see. Now, I know this may all sound very easy, but I'll let you into a little secret that might sound harsh, but it's something that really helped me build my confidence. You're not a big deal. I'm not big a deal. I really am not that big a deal. If I say something silly or awkward, the world doesn't stop and nobody will die, really. Heck, the people that you're speaking to, be it at a networking event, an interview, even in the office, they also want to make a good impression. I know when I'm interviewing people, I really want them to like me. It sounds so silly, but I want to be that person that like, oh, I interviewed with Enitan and she was so nice and I really want to work with that company. And if the person that you're speaking to, it doesn't really engage, that's fine. But do remember that we have all been where you are at the moment and we really do want you to succeed. So again, don't take things too personally. Another trick that I have learned in building confidence, or at least faking it until you make it, is smile. I found that smiling puts people at ease. I have a big smile. I smile when I'm talking to somebody, and when I'm talking to somebody either on the phone or in their email, you can always tell when the other person is smiling. I don't know the magic trick that it has, but you can just tell. And again, that forms a stronger connection, a stronger bond, and makes you more memorable. So smile. And if you're not ready to engage just yet, that's absolutely fine. Do take your time, but do remember that the thing you fear the most is the thing you must do to achieve success. So to wrap up, 3 things I'd like you to remember. First, your words are making 2 people proud every single day. Your younger self, who's come so far, and your older self, who has to live with the consequences of what you say. When you speak from this place, you'll realize that you're automatically choosing words that serve you and serve others better. Secondly, networking isn't about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about showing up with curiosity, admitting when you're nervous, and remembering that everybody else is trying to make a good impression too. And if you're the person who says, I'm nervous, but I'm going to do my best, to the person you actually are speaking to, they remember that they will root for you. They will lower their guard. They'll be more relaxed and more open. And finally, I'm sorry to say it again, but you're not a big deal, and neither am I. But the thing about that is actually quite liberating. It means you can make that phone call, send that email, start that conversation, because you know that the world will not end if you're awkward. In fact, being real and awkward and a little bit imperfect is kind of what makes people remember you. So smile when you're writing that email, ask what and how questions when networking, and remember the thing that you fear the most is exactly what you need to do to succeed. That's it. Miriam, how
Thank
did I
you
do for
so
time?
much. Great, great. I think we're in time. Thank you so much. That was not only insightful, but practicable too as well. And we do have a couple of questions, but I must say that for the first time, I think I have met people who sort of feel the same way as I do when it comes to networking. You know, like it's so uncomfortable and awkward. And I think we unanimously agree that it's very uncomfortable. Oh, Dagmawit said that it's exciting. I gotta respect that. So I think the hardest part when it comes to networking is waiting for the person you want to network with, because they are talking to other people. And you know, those like first few minutes of awkwardness. Okay, I'm waiting for this person. He's talking to another person. So what do I do? Like, so I want to ask, how can you shake off like those few minutes of awkwardness? Because it's really awkward and you're like dying inside, like, do I have to meet with them? So like, how do you shake that off?
Um, I don't think you can shake it off, to be honest. But I think you just have to recognize it and do it afraid. Really, to be honest with you, I wish there was like, click your fingers and, shake your head. Like, no, it won't. I would say that if you're kind of waiting for, if the person you're waiting for is engaged in a conversation, do stand close by. But I think, like you said, like kind of, cock your head to one side, nod, smile. And because we all have peripheral vision, they will see you and they'll know that you're interested in talking in what it is that they're saying. And so therefore, when there's an opening or there's a gap and you say something, you're not coming in cold, as long as what you're saying is tied to the conversation that you were having. Another thing I found that's helped is try to have something in your hands, either like a drink or a snack to kind of keep you engaged. Otherwise, I speak with my hands, I'm all over the place. And you're like, I want to speak to you. Thank you, but it calms you down because you have to, you have to focus on your hands and you can just focus on the smile. So I wish it was a market secret, but just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Thank you so much. That's really amazing. So our first question from our participant, this person is asking that what strategies can help ensure that feedback is received in the spirit it's intended, especially when a colleague often interprets concerns as personal attacks. Do you want me to repeat it?
No, I think I've got it. I think there are a couple of things. I think it very much depends on. I think it's important to understand how the person likes to receive feedback. Some people are better with that. Some people are better kind of being given a heads up to say, I'd like to have a meeting with you, for example, to discuss this particular thing. Let me know what the best format would be. Would it be like a face-to-face conversation? Would you prefer it kind of written down and then we can discuss? And the reason for doing that is because I know that nobody likes to be blindsided. So if it's like, if you call me up, Miriam, and you're like, Enitan, we need to talk about something, and I'm immediately put on the defensive. So no matter what you say, I'm not going to receive. But if you tell me we're going to talk about this, and when can we schedule it in? It gives some time to kind of go, think up things. I think when you're then giving the feedback, I would always start with I would say things like, I'm giving you this feedback because I want you to do better. And then you give the feedback rather than saying, oh, you did an amazing job, you're a valuable part of the team. But if you kind of flip it to say, I'm giving you this feedback, this is what it is, and then go on to that. And then the person leaves on a positive note. If the person still takes it as a personal attack, I think it means that you need to kind of dig a little bit deeper really? Why does the person react in that way? Is it that, they're insecure, they're having a bad day, they're already feeling really nervous? And once you kind of know where the person is coming from, then it's a bit easier to give the feedback. I often find that when you're giving feedback, try to give as many kind of practical examples. I noticed this and this happened when this and this particular item, because then it's hard to refute facts. And if the person is taking it a bit, does get quite emotional, I don't think there's any harm in just saying, do you know what, I've given you the feedback, for example, let's come back to it tomorrow, a couple of days, once you've had a chance to digest, and then we can talk about it in that way. And I think always couching in the fact that you're doing this to make them better, I think can help. It's not always perfect, but it can help.
Thank you so much for that. The second person is asking, even when one shifts focus to what can I learn from this person, one can still feel somewhat fraudulent. Like, should one also be contributing meaningfully to the conversation? How do you find the right balance between learning and giving back?
That is a good question. I think if you feel fraudulent, I think it's important to kind of question why that is. Really, as I spoke to kind of your intuition, is it that you're genuinely not interested in the topic area? Is it that you feel like you have a target that you need to achieve? Is it that you feel that maybe that person isn't quite kind of engaging? I think there are things that you need to unpick personally, So if you feel that you're being fraudulent, just stop. Stop and kind of pivot to something and just pivot to something else, or to say, or just be a bit honest to say, I really wanted to ask you this, but I feel it may not be genuine. I'd really rather would ask this. And people do people do appreciate authenticity much more than we think they do. But that isn't interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that one a bit more. Because real recognizes real, When you're being fake, it comes across. It really does. And that's the last thing you want to do. So if you don't have a question, or you just want to give a comment to say, great speech, I really love what you say, then just say it and leave it at that. And stay around them, listen to other conversation and chip in. And if you have nothing to say, that is also fine. Kind of, go away, come back, follow them on LinkedIn if you want to, and just say, I saw you at this event. I enjoyed what you said when you spoke to the other person, and kind of take it from there. But don't be fraudulent. Just don't. It doesn't make you feel nice. Why do it to yourself?
Thank you for that. So Dagmavit is asking, I want to be more active on LinkedIn, not just posting. I'm excited to announce, but I feel like I'm surrounded by so many high caliber people and don't really know how to find my niche. Any advice? I feel like this could be a great way to get visibility and network.
I totally agree. And LinkedIn is really evolving in that the way that they are changing up the algorithm. I would say that post about the things that you care about. Post about the things that you care about. If, for example, you've read someone's post, you're interested in what they've said, leave a comment, a thoughtful comment that kind of contributes to the discussion. Alternatively, you can repost what they have said with your own thoughts that also kind of contributes to the discussion. One thing you want to be known on LinkedIn is that you want to be known for maybe no more than 3 things. The whole thing with the accolades can be very off-putting. It turns a lot of people off LinkedIn. But as I said, it isn't about it really is about career building, so people get to know what it is that you are about. Be authentic so that the people that do want to find you will find you, and they know that you can contribute positively to their company based on what it is that you're saying. So I would say, don't necessarily kind of focus on the number of, likes or comments, just be consistent. So when people look at your profile on the whole, they know that, Miriam, for example, you are passionate about environmental issues, the role of AI and kind of ethics, and puppies. Or, puppies or cats or something. And so therefore they know that if something comes up, like, there's a conversation, I saw a post on AI and ethics, and I remember that Miriam posted something, then they kind of connect with you that way. As I said, real recognizes real. We all know those who just post and blah, 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 blah. Well done, you.
100%.
Literally,
That's
that sounds
true.
very negative. It is like kind of well done, you, but it doesn't really shift things. Some people get promoted and get accolades just because of the amount of time they've been working. And so we could be just kind of naturally after 18 months, everybody at that level moves up. Or there's mandatory training that happens and everybody does it and they post it. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are achieving so much. So there's a lot to kind of read behind it. So don't get caught up in that.
True. So we have a second question from the same person. When meeting someone for the first time, how can we approach networking in a way that allows us to express interest in work opportunities, or is it better to simply connect, exchange contacts, and explore opportunities at a later stage?
I think it depends on who you are, really. Some people are, if you're someone who's direct, by all means, be direct and say, by all means be direct, because as I said, the people who go to networking events, they know why they are there. They know that they are there to meet people who want to get a job or something out of it. So they won't be surprised if you just come out and say, hey, Emiola, you work at DOWA, I want a job. Obviously, don't say it like that. Emila's kind of prepared for it. If that direct approach isn't you, again, being authentic, I would suggest that you, if there's an organization, for example, that you're targeting, connect with maybe a couple of people, not just one, maybe kind of 2 or 3 people. Follow their posts, comment thoughtfully, connect with them, share articles or things that you've learned with them that way. Do that for a good couple of months. So they kind of know who you are, so that when you then say, I'm really interested in working in your company, are there any opportunities? It comes from a natural conversation. But ultimately, it depends on who you are. I'm a direct person. It depends on how I feel that day, to be honest. Sometimes I'm subtle, sometimes I'm direct. So just do whatever feels natural for you so that you don't feel fraudulent or fake.
Thank you for that. From an anonymous attendee, can we succeed without social media?
100% yes. 100% yes. The good thing about social media is that it just gives you access to information, really. So if you are interested in a company and what it is that they're doing, I think there are still opportunities for you to kind of reach out directly to CEO, head of HR, finance officer, what have you, and they will always kind of forward your information on to talent acquisition or the recruitment team, for example. Or you could just send an email to say, I saw you post this on LinkedIn, which means you do have social media, or you're at this talk. I found your contact details. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. It would be great to connect, or, do you have time for a virtual coffee meeting? Yes, just do that. And I also want to give you a little secret. I should offer. But a lot of companies have referral schemes, referral bonuses. So if they refer you, you get the job, you stay for a period of time. The person who does the referral, the employee, gets some money. So there is also an incentive to receive kind of emails or messages that are outside the traditional ways in a positive way, because there is something in there for them. I sound so, I don't mean to sound so cynical, but I just want to just remind everybody that we're people, we're people at the end on the other end. So do remember that when you can, and hopefully that would kind of help demystify whoever they are.
Thank you. And the last question for the night or the evening. This person said, I've heard that the key to surviving in professional spaces is to be useful, especially in internships if you want to secure a job in the space. How do you remain open to problem solving and helping without being possibly overworked or directed away from your interests?
That is a really good question. I think that from as early as you possibly can, that you should set your boundaries, or understand what your boundaries are. It could be that I guess if you're an intern, you would have a manager that's looking after you. So I would, so as soon as a request comes in, the very first request that seems like it's kind of pushing a little bit outside of your day to day, and just have a conversation to sit with them to say, this comes in. I'm mindful of the fact that it might be taking me away from my day to day, or over time it may become about how can I manage this in a way that is beneficial to the person, to the company, doesn't turn them off, but doesn't detract from what it is that I'm going to do. And your manager will help you do that. And I think it's really, once you do that and you practice it, try as much as possible to stay within those boundaries. It's a very slippery slope, very on, but it's one thing to be useful and helpful. It's another thing to understand the things that make the most impact. So if you're working on a group project, for example, that's supposed to move the company forward in some way, that is what you'll be judged on. All the other things that you've done around the side it's nice. It is nice, and will make people think favorably of you, but it won't make that much of a difference, because really we're looking for people who can manage their time, they can do things efficiently, and ultimately add impact. Not somebody who can do the things that I don't want to do, because ultimately I do things that I don't really want to do. Often those people may not have as much as a say in who stays and who goes as you think. That's my advice. People may have a different perspective, and that's totally fine. So do ask around and get different perspectives, but ultimately listen to your intuition. If your intuition kind of flags that this isn't right, I should need to have this conversation, listen to it, trust it. It will never let you down.
Thank you so much, Enitan. I had dinner earlier, but I must say, this could easily pass as dessert. It's subtle yet refreshing and filling at the same time. I really did enjoy listening to you. What an interesting session. And I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for all the helpful, insightful, yet practicable tips that you have shared with each and every one of us tonight. Thank you so much. And to all of our participants who joined us today, I want to say thank you to as well. You can connect with us on Instagram at DOWA Africa, and watch out for the space this week because it's going to be interesting. You should expect interesting content from our interns this week and next week. So do watch out for the space. With no further questions, I will I don't know if Emiola wants to say something before we close the session for the
Thank you.
night.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Thank you so much, Enitan. This was wonderful. For all those nerves, you just blew it out of the park. So thank you so much. We're grateful at DOWA, and we look forward to other sessions with you. For everyone who joined us, thank you so much for joining us. As Mariam said, connect with us on social media and you hear more about what we do. Thank you. Thank you. And remember what Enitan said, the thing you fear the most is the thing you need to do to succeed. So thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Oh,
you.
clock it. I clocked it. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
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 Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stop and then
Okay.
I'll call you.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.